Oh my God, Digital Dyans back at it again. Did it? I didn't work out. All right, welcome to episode 6 of.
No, that's a blooper. No, this is why is he continuing? I thought you could move with the blooper.
I thought we could also move with it.
No, you just threw me off.
Okay, fine.
I shop por say, Gabu case, I shop por say, the petty three, I shop por say, the tankare, I shop por say, mas big way, I shop por say, Gabu case, I shop por say.
We're back at it again with episode 6 of Digital Dyans, and I'm with.
aka See Yay.
Okay.
Sanele.
All right, thank you so much once again. Please do subscribe, do comment, do follow. We're also on Facebook, we're on YouTube, as you know, and we also got a podcast, and we are also on Spotify. And SoundCloud. Yeah, we're there on SoundCloud. So let's get straight into it. We want to discuss tangible things as usual. Why is it so important, guys, to have KPIs for social media campaigns?
So it's very important, Wayne, to set KPIs based on the objective that the campaign is trying to achieve. So depending on whether you want engagements, you need to have a set KPI for the amount of engagements that you want by the end of the certain campaign. If you want awareness, you need reach. If you want money, traffic, you have to drive to the website. You need to have how many click-throughs do you have, how many view-throughs do you have of the video. I would like everyone to view through this particular video, but these KPIs are very important so that you can meet the objective that the campaign was set out to achieve from the beginning.
All right, there's that blue tick that we all see, Twitter verification. It's that aesthetic. What does it mean exactly, and why is it so contentious?
I don't know, you tell us, you got one.
Ah, damn. Am I going to take this one? All right.
So I mean, I think not so much anymore, but definitely in the past it was quite a hotly debated topic on social media circles because people didn't know what the process was. Do you apply? Does Twitter just give you that blue tick? What is it based on? Is the amount of followers? What your influence is? If it is influence, how do they measure it? So, I mean, before there was quite a lot of conversations around it, and now actually, funny enough, if you try and get a verification, which there is an application process for, at the moment that is suspended. So Twitter is not taking in any more applications for the blue tick. So Hades, if you're trying to get that verification, some people got it on merit, and others will leave up to debate.
Oh snap, I'm not going to get into that one. Quickly moving past that one, the discussion between millennials and Generation Z. Who are they? Does it matter? And what should we be aware of as people online, content creators and consumers?
So the one thing a lot of people kind of sleep on is the fact that millennials are pretty much all the way up to 40 years old now. Gen Z is like early 20s. And in the way that we consume social media differently is very vast.
Yeah.
The millennials have been adulting for years now. There's a lot of depression that sits in with it. We complain about adulting and all the time. Gen Z is living their best life. One of the top content creators in terms of generations that we've seen. I mean, especially in the digital environment.
Snap.
And they just consume a lot quicker, and a lot more fun, and a lot less serious than what millennials are going to be talking about. We will be talking about financial literacy and stuff like that. Gen Z does not give a shit.
Yeah, like
not yet anyway.
Long form content, for example.
Versus short form.
I think it's also a lot to do with not just in the digital space, but a lot to do with their attitude and their personality. Their personality is a lot braver. They're not afraid to make mistakes. They're not afraid to put themselves out there. They're also not afraid to claim what they think they deserve.
Very true.
In terms of whether they're content creators, whether in the job space.
Excuse me.
Like, not feel to, I'll sit next to a Gen Z person at work, and let's say we're randomly talking about, like, yo, how much money are you making, whatever, and we don't really divulge those things, but they're like, I can live it too. I'm not going to accept this. Like, I deserve this much. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm not saying that.
I'm not
just kind
stepping
of like
in.
negotiating like an asshole here. Like, I'm not even saying anything. But they literally, it basically feels like they understand their worth and they're not willing to back down on it. Whereas we, I think as millennials, we're a little bit more cautious in that space. I think we're a little bit more concerned about what are the ramifications if we try and push too hard, if we try and ask for too much. But they are not concerned about that at all. I think the fear of failure also they don't have as much as we do.
And then in terms of the human feel, I get stuck on this a lot because optimization, SEO, I always have to get stopped and be like, Wasanga, this doesn't read well. So that balance between your strategies and the human aspect, some may say it's user experience. So how do you get that balance right in your strategies?
So I think it's you always have to remember who your target audience is, and you need to understand kind of the content that they like to consume, and you need to make sure that your objectives and your strategy overall is aligned to those things. And then again, it goes back to what Siya was saying about KPIs. It all falls into that space. So if you know that you are targeting, let's say Gen Z, 16 to 22-year-olds, you know that in terms of KPIs, you're looking at things like engagement, you're looking at things like views, etc. As opposed to if you're targeting a completely different audience, your KPIs might not be the same. So I think in that SEO space, you have to understand your audience and tailor whatever your promotional or ad material is towards that target audience.
And there's a lovely saying about an audience of one, creating for an audience of one. I love that, especially when it comes to optimization. But in just the different platform diversification, how would you then use each platform? So just practically, let's say you're doing a campaign, how would you diversify between Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram? Someone was explaining to me about peeing, for example. It was a very interesting sentence.
Sorry, what?
It was an analogy.
Like urination.
Yes, but like how you would explain it, for example, on Instagram, like my pee is great, my pee is better than yours. And then on Facebook, it's like, look at my pee. And then on LinkedIn, you'd say, my pee is great because I drink water and this is what I do to it.
Okay, I'm not going to go like with that analogy per se. But obviously different platforms have different kind of best practices when it comes to their posting.
Yes.
And the one thing that I think has to travel across all of them is the high definition of the photos that if you are going to post one, just please make sure that it is high res. I cannot stress this enough. It is very important. I mean, like it goes without saying. Photography is very important. Everyone is a photographer now. Please just play your part, add a bit to the game, and show us what skills you've got, and keep it high res. Obviously, like in Twitter, it's very copy heavy. You get a lot of thoughts into how a person thinks on their day-to-day routine. On Instagram, we're there to floss. It's about opulence, decadence, writing curses in cursive, and it's just about and that one upsmanship that comes with it. On Facebook, that is a wild place, and I mean, there's a reason why it has the most monthly active users across any other social media platform. I mean, literally everyone is there.
Has anyone figured out Facebook? Like, what do you think, essentially, from our point of view, can you use that from a business sense? Because the idea has always been small business. But do you think we've fully figured out the full spectrum of Facebook use?
Listen, man, I don't even think Zuckerberg is completely knowledgeable, like exactly the capabilities of what Facebook can do. He knows that he could sway political decisions using it. That's how far-reaching Facebook can go. But the thing is, the fact that more often than not, most of your customers will be on Facebook is very important. So it's the targeting, it's all like that specialization, the remarketing, lookalike audiences. Once you put your pixel on your website, all that stuff. It's how you play the game. And I mean, all the tools are there for Facebook. Just look up on Facebook Blueprints and go see what's capable with Facebook. But I think it's a very relevant platform that people should definitely use more often than not. And
then lastly, in terms of that navigating that whole jungle, how important is a guide, like a content plan? And you obviously need to have a sort of plan. How important is that content plan? How do you put it together? Are there different content plans for different platforms?
So I think before you even get into the specific content plan space, you will develop a content strategy. And what your content strategy will inform is kind of the pillars or the areas in which your particular brand will play in, right? So if you look at a brand and they say, okay, cool, we think we should play in the fashion space and also music and let's say also empowerment, whatever, and you literally segment those and you say, okay, within those three, which are the platforms which are most suited to those? So if you look at fashion, you think Instagram because you know those pictures, the styles, whatever. If you're looking at, let's say, sport, because sport is a live area arena to play in. So you look at Twitter more in terms of sport interactions, banter, especially like EPL banter and stuff. And then if you have empowerment, for instance, then you look something more like a LinkedIn, or you look at a Facebook, for example, because that's a high reach platform. That's where you get most of your awareness from. So once you put it into buckets and once you align those buckets to the social media platforms, then your content strategy becomes very focused. And you understand, okay, when we play here, this is what we do and this is how we execute it. And those KPIs are meant for that particular bucket. So content pillars are very important because they're a guide as to this is the area you play in. So, and I know we've seen a lot of weird stuff on social media. Like, I think a couple of years ago, I saw Steers trying to do like some cartoon type weird ad thing. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if that makes sense for your brand because that's what happens once you see a brand and you go, that's weird. Like, why are they going into that space? That doesn't seem natural for them. That means they haven't identified their content pillars. They're using trends and pop culture to guide their content pillars, but that's a dangerous space to go because then you'll just go wherever the wind goes. It's outside of just going where your brand is supposed to be. Yeah, but we're not going to get granular. Obviously, we've mentioned it before, you can Google a schedule, you can Google posting and delivery and all those kind of things. But I think that's the crux of everything. We've all had our content superheroes. Lockdown has been very hard on a lot of us, but with that creativity, with that pressure comes a lot of creativity. Our ad of the week is an example of that.
South Africa, a nation that's always been known to overcome adversity. But what exactly makes them such a soulful people? You could say it's because they always have an ace up their sleeve. And a plan to boot.
And Siya, would you care to say anything about the Chicken Licken ad? I mean, Tyson Gubeni is the mastermind. I think he's also the person who's been delivering that content consistently. And now I think a brand like Chicken Licken has recognized that.
Yes, I think that the marriage of Tyson Gubeni and Chicken Licken worked out very well. Because Tyson already had an advert with the whiskey brand already in lockdown, and I mean it didn't reach anywhere near as far as what the Chicken Licken ad did, but I just think it works so much better than what the coalition between Demi and Savannah did. You know what I mean? This was a lot more thought out, a lot more considered, and a lot more production value to it as well. So I mean, Joe Public went. They paid out of their boots to get that shot, and only props to them.
Sanele, what are your ideas? What are your thoughts? It's quite dynamic. There's a lot of parts involved. There's a lot of oscillating movements. What caught your eye?
Yeah, so I think if you look back at kind of the general history of Chicken Licken ads, one thing that's always consistent, they always tap into South African cultural insights, right? In everything that they ever do. The previous one, there's snippets of like old generation scenes. They tap into actual cultural things that are relevant to everyday South Africans, right? So once you do that, you build resonance with your audience because they can relate to sort of the content that you're pushing out. So I think that is the biggest part, the point of departure in terms of how they get so on the ball with their ads, is because it's born in a very strong cultural insight. And then from there, now you're just going into creative space because you got Tebogo Malope, who's like one of the best directors in the country.
Shout out, dude.
And when you get the marriage of the right insight and the creativity, you will struggle to lose. The only thing that I would say, which might be a slightly unpopular opinion, is that we have become so used to kind of the quality of Chicken Licken ads that if someone actually were to say, I didn't think it was that great, they would probably get come after.
They would.
Because there's sheep mentality around. As soon as a few people say it's dope, then the way that you look at it changes your perspective completely. So I'm not saying it's not dope. I'm just saying that sometimes you need to look at things through a slightly different lens and not just jump on the bandwagon of social media going
Fair
automatically it's dope.
Put him on.
I can almost tell there's probably people that didn't watch it from start to finish and commented this is dope because they knew it was a chicken licken ad. And you expect it. You expect it.
Yeah, man. So straight to the chase. What do you give it, Keppies, out of 5?
I'll give it 4.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a 4 as well.
All right. Please do tell us your opinions as well. This is about you. It's about knowledge sharing. Tell us what you'd like to discuss going forward. We are available on all platforms: Spotify, SoundCloud, yay, you name it. Thank you once again. Like, subscribe. We only do this because of you and through you. Thank you.
Can't catch you, man. It doesn't do you for big can catch you. It can't catch you, man. Savo catch you as the clock was on my pote. It can't catch you, man. Stop all and that's only passing a shot in my own. We got a Kalili shot. We pull them tattoo and you always a lot. Oh, yeah, I'm fat to catch in. Stack up a girl like you see it. In front is your marker.